What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Apartment 113 podcast, where we talk with cool folks in the cannabis and psychedelics industry to learn about their projects and celebrate their successes. My name is Rob Sanchez, and this is episode 41. We're joined today by the co-founder and CEO of ExstoBio, Juan Carlos Pacheco. Stop guessing and start treating. Rooted in science and developed under the highest standards, ExstoBio leverages the research of top scientists and the power of AI to provide precision cannabinoid care. Juan Carlos and his team are working to provide targeted cannabinoid research and education for doctors to advise accurately and confidently. Find out more at exstobio.com and enjoy the show. Juan Carlos, welcome, man. Thanks for joining me.
Rob, it's great to be here, man. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, a long time in scheduling, but we're here at last.
Definitely, yeah. It feels good to be connected.
The cannabis industry has a way of passing time that's kind of like disjointed from the calendar.
For sure.
You've been busy since we last spoke, passing the bar, man. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you. Yeah, I was in the depths of it, and when we met back in February. So I just graduated with a law degree and an MBA from University of North Carolina this past May, and passed the bar this past August. So it feels good to close that chapter.
Yes, man. Now you can turn back and kind of see the journey you've been making, huh?
Definitely, yeah. It feels good to be able to focus full time now on ExstoBio.
Yes, yeah. Kind of rolling up your sleeves on it. Were you working on ExstoBio then throughout your degree on the side?
Yeah, so my program was a 4-year program, and I co-founded ExstoBio during my third year. About halfway through.
It just wasn't quite enough to only work on the school curriculum, right?
Yeah, I had to get out of the books in the classroom and do some real stuff. Get out of the head and get in business.
It's always interesting how that works to take when you're taking theory and things you've been learning out into the real world.
Exactly. Yeah. In the past year and a half with ExstoBio, I'd said I've learned more than I had in the 4 years of school. So which is quite a bit.
It kind of forces you to keep learning when you're the guy at the top and the one making the decisions on that side. Definitely.
Yeah. You realize how much you don't know.
Right. It makes you humble quick. I think that's probably a good thing about it.
For sure.
And if we rewind the clock a little bit to even before your law degree days, what's your past with cannabis and in or outside of it? Did you dabble in college like many of our guests, or have you been entrenched in it like some of our other guests since their childhood?
Yeah, so I'd say I got a bit of a non-traditional path. So I definitely consumed in high school growing up. And then I played soccer for a year at Lipscomb University, and also enjoyed my time there. And then I actually transferred out of Lipscomb and spent the next 5 years in Catholic seminary. I took a little bit of break there, and then I had a shoulder surgery, and instead of using opioids, I used a tincture.
Nice, man. And you were able to get that relief from it without worrying about opioids and hitting your body with that, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of one of the reasons for starting ExstoBio. But I had a lot of friends growing up in Atlanta that were affected by the opioid epidemic. And the valedictorian of our high school actually passed away from an opioid overdose. And so I wanted to steer clear from there, and chose the holistic route. Yeah,
it's crazy how that can actually help. I had a similar thing with a shoulder surgery, actually a chest muscle that tore, and it was only edibles and a vape that kind of got me through the pain on that. It's kind of unreal to think about it, that it can block that level of pain, as well as maybe increase the mood or any other benefits, right? But to have those core medical aspects are invaluable.
Exactly. And you don't have to worry about all the awful side effects that come along with opioids, the constipation and the just the fogginess of the brain and all of that. So definitely,
Right.
definitely was grateful to have access.
So what was the catalyst then for you, this year three of your law degree, to really make ExstoBio into reality, or really get that business charted up?
Yeah, great question. So when I applied to the MBA program at Keenan Flagler, I actually applied to do cannabis entrepreneurship. And here in North Carolina, it's not a very cannabis friendly state. So I actually thought I was going to get just rejected right away, but I got accepted. And my initial, probably the first 2 months of my time there, I was doing market research in industrial hemp, and particularly in the construction industry. So I wanted to
Oh,
build a house.
sweet.
Yeah, I wanted to build houses out of hemp. My mom's side of the family, they're all contractors, and so building houses has kind of been running through my blood.
Like a
And we've been building.
hempcrete or hemp fiber board.
Yeah, I wanted the whole house. Would love to
Nice.
see. We've been building houses the same way for so long and using the same materials that take 10, 15, 20 years to grow. And, cannabis takes 3, 4 months to grow. And it turns out it's a better product and it's better for the environment. And then I actually met my co-founder during that time. He's finishing up his PhD in neuropharmacology, studying chronic pain and opioids and the cannabinoid 1 and 2 receptors. And he had an idea of creating a non-opioid analgesic or non-opioid painkiller. And my past experience, thought it was a wonderful idea to really help a lot of people, and kind of took a pivot there from building houses to building medicine for people.
Yeah, wow, that is, and what a pivot, right? From infrastructure to medicine. Still
Yeah,
still servicing the community, right? From a
exactly.
different angle.
Yep, exactly.
Nice. So your co-founder, David Lee, you guys met, and his sounds like his specialization is absolutely perfect for ExstoBio, and exactly what we need in the cannabis space, with more focus on the cannabinoid receptors and their response towards everything, right? As we try to explore this mystery that's been kind of black boxed for a few decades.
Absolutely. Yeah. David has a unique ability that isn't found in too many scientists, where he's a brilliant scientist, but he also has an entrepreneurial mind. So being able to bring those two things together, and the innovation, the medicine, the science, and me being able to bring the business and the law side, it turned out to be a great combination.
Yeah, that sounds like a great match made there. And I saw that you've extended the roster or added on a few other scientists to the team.
Yeah, we have. So we brought on Dr. Kyle Jensen as our chief science officer. He's another brilliant scientist. He did his PhD up in New York at Einstein's School of Medicine, studying cannabinoids and more complex neurological conditions such as epilepsy, autism, schizophrenia, and a few others. And then we met when he was just down the road at Duke University for his postdoc, where he was studying cannabinoids in epilepsy. And so
You met in the cannabinoid support group,
yeah, we looked past the fact that he was a Blue Devil, and brought him on the team.
right?
So yeah, we brought him on, and then we've got a 10-person advisory board now of really incredible scientists, legal professionals, cannabis industry veterans, and just recently brought on a go-to-market tech executive as well to help with our software.
Oh, nice, man. That's awesome to hear. So what is what is the current projects then for ExstoBio? I've seen some of the research coming through that you guys are kind of funding and working with. What are the next steps then to advocate for that research, or are you actually looking to build and create some new formulations within the company?
Yeah, great question again. So a little bit of both. Dr. Jensen, he's heavily focused on developing formulations, and has been doing that using all different sorts of rare and minor cannabinoids, as well as the main cannabinoids, THC, CBD.
Wow,
Um,
that'd be very interesting to have that It's basically like a very minuscule and highly controlled cannabinoid cocktail there.
Exactly. Yeah. So he developed our first tincture for epilepsy. It's got 10 different cannabinoids and terpenes, put at a specific ratio, and we've recently finished up a 3-month case study with a young woman with temporary refractory epilepsy caused by an epidermoid tumor on her hippocampus, and the results were really fantastic. She had an awful quality of life. She was experiencing seizures from the moment she woke up to the moment she went to bed. She lost her license to drive. She was also experiencing what are called unawareness seizures, about 10 a month, where she was losing consciousness, her sense of reality, waking up with drool on her, just everywhere. And
scary.
It's terrifying. She had gone through 7 different anti-epileptic drugs, including the CBD-based Epidiolex, 2 different neurosurgeries, one that removed part of her brain. She was working with the doctors out of NYU Langone, which is one of the top epilepsy centers in the world, and absolutely nothing had helped her. And in the past 3 months, with our case study, we provided her kind of our approach as ExstoBio is providing precision cannabinoid therapeutics. So we gave her our formulation with 10 different cannabinoids and terpenes. She tracked her treatment, and she met frequently with Dr. Jensen, our chief science officer. And in the past 3 months, she hasn't had a single focal onset unawareness seizure. So she's with us. She's no longer losing consciousness, and she's had an overall reduction in seizure activity of over 80%. So she's excited. Her quality of life is so much better. She's happier. The hope is returning to her that one day she can drive again. And
Man,
it's just been awesome.
That's unreal. Almost 180 degrees from the previous lifestyle, and after exhausting like other medical options, I can imagine the kind of the mindset you come to, right, as you're trying more things and it's not working. I mean, being able to find that relief in something has got to feel phenomenal, right? That's just a new lease on life, dude. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, every time we meet with her, I'm giddy. I'm so excited just to hear how much better she's doing. And the cannabis industry is tough, and it's moments like these and results like this that push us forward and are really the fuel that keep us going.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from ExstoBio's angle here, the value they're providing is not only for the research, it seems, but I mean, for the individuals affected, by the treatments, that I think that's really crazy to think about. How many folks may benefit from cannabinoid-based treatments or formulations like that might just be hesitant to actually consume, right? Or just to test those waters themselves and find what works. And especially for folks that are older in the population or younger, right, that don't need any kind of psychedelic effects associated with their healing, right? It's wonderful to be able to tap into that potential.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're excited and to be able to, do the same thing for patients, but also for doctors. The large majority of doctors, they approve of cannabis as a therapeutic option, but only 2% have any type of dosing knowledge. So
interesting.
Right. They'll give you a medical cannabis card and that's it.
Kind of, they can recommend the use in general, but not to any specificity.
Exactly. So you either have to, be your own pharmacist and go through trial and error, or rely on recommendations that are based largely in anecdotal evidence.
And that's a good point. For better or worse, a lot of cannabis industry reviews and recommendations like that are very anecdotal. It's kind of almost like culture knowledge or like industry knowledge, this like amorphous blob of facts in quotes that no one quite knows, but they're like accepted terms. Even things like sativa indica, or that certain terpenes will make you feel different ways. I mean, I think there's a lot of obfuscation of the science that happens in the space. So
Definitely.
having such science-based background with the product and behind the recommendations, I should really open the doors to who's willing to hear it, right? Who's willing to sit down and listen to that.
Exactly. And there's a lot of wisdom in the industry before us. I mean, humans have been using cannabis as a medicine for thousands of years. So there's a lot of wisdom that exists in the cannabis industry, and we like to think that we're adding on to that wisdom with our science-based, data-driven approach.
Helping to lay the next brick, or
Exactly.
maybe shore up the foundation a little bit. Well, yeah, that's
Exactly.
awesome. And did you ever think that you would be in the cannabis industry up to your time in law school, or was that just like the furthest from your planned trajectory? With some time in the seminary school, I'm guessing maybe it was pretty far.
Yeah, I can't say that I ever imagined that I would be in the cannabis industry, but I do like to think my time in seminary and ministry you're bringing healing to a lot of people. And I like to think that's very similar to my work in the cannabis industry now is just an extension of that, which
Right,
is
I could
still
see that.
providing healing with people.
Yeah, and at times very formulaic healing. Having to listen and kind of understand what those folks need at the times, for sure. I could see the correlations there.
Yeah, but it's definitely been a winding road.
Yeah, right. I think it's good. It keeps the story interesting to have some of those phases in life along the way.
For sure.
And has the cannabis industry really? Are there any next steps in North Carolina that you're working with through ExstoBio, or is it still kind of in the early stages for that space?
Yeah, North Carolina is one of the few states right now without an official medical cannabis program. We have a low THC, which allows us to focus on certain medical conditions or indications, but it severely limits the industry as well. There's SB3 right now, which has gone back and forth through multiple sessions at the General Assembly. It's actually surprisingly a Republican-led bill, which in the past has the Republican side have been the people putting a hold to everything. So there's a little bit more chance now. It was led by Senator, I believe it was Senator Rabin, who actually himself used to be anti-cannabis until he used cannabis as a medicine for his own cancer.
Oh wow!
So,
He actually he had some of the benefits that first-hand experience, huh?
exactly. And I think that's often the case for people who have grown up with a stigma. My dad is from Venezuela, and oftentimes the Latino population has a very strong stigma against cannabis. And until recently, and the work that I've done and have been sharing with my dad, now I've got him on as a believer as well. So sometimes it
you were
just
able
takes
to kind
that.
of transcend a little bit of that with the knowledge, huh?
Exactly. So I think sometimes it just takes that, walking with someone, and the education aspect is so important. And sometimes it just takes a personal experience of not having anything else or nothing else is working. And you take the chance with cannabis, and honestly, not surprisingly, it works.
Yes, yeah, and it's the same, sometimes the same anecdotal stories. And so I think for people in the industry, you can almost discredit like another anecdotal story. But I think it's important to still give those folks the stage and give those stories the value so that more people hear it and kind of this things continue to spread and move in that direction. I think that the
Definitely.
cannabis space is really interesting with the dichotomy of healing and medicinal formulations and like a recreational CPG market. That being said, I can see advances on the medicinal side starting to trend the CPGs and other brands even after that. I saw that on the site. You guys have a shop already with some like CBD formulations, or are they Delta 8?
So they're not Delta 8. It's our sleep product. It's got about CBN, CBG, and a few other cannabinoids and a small trace amount of
Okay.
melatonin as well. And then our other tincture it's a full spectrum tincture. We haven't put our epilepsy formula up there yet because we want to continue. We're expanding our case study to an open label study to about 15 other participants. So we kind of our approach with our products is before we put anything on the market, we want to get some preliminary data on its efficacy beforehand.
I see. So doing a few stages of research, then you mentioned the first stage passed for epilepsy, so it will be more candidates part of this second experiment.
Yeah, so we're going to open it up to about 15 different participants, and then we're also actually launching a one for autism spectrum disorder, which we're very excited about.
That is awesome. And how is ExstoBio, or how are you arranging these partnerships to study these disorders, or to to open up the studies and kind of go about that formal backing?
Yeah, so we're working and partnering with different patient advocacy groups. So our case study was sponsored by an epilepsy advocacy group, and really
Okay.
we want it to be patient led and buy-in from the community because they understand their condition the best and they know how they need to be supported, and they also have their ear to the ground, and we want to build trust with them as a brand, as a company, and as scientists in this space.
Right. If you're building it for the community, starting with the community is the way to go.
Definitely.
Surprisingly, I think a few companies miss that mark at times.
Yeah,
It's one of those deepities. It doesn't sound as deep as it probably actually is.
definitely. And it's tempting too to want to go straight to the market and to start generating revenue.
That green
Um,
rush.
exactly. But we've just tried to maintain our focus on the patient. We say we're having a patient-centered, physician-led approach. So equipping the doctors, with the data, the research, and the tools to provide precision cannabinoid therapeutics, and then giving the patient, exactly where to get it from, how to dose it, and then journeying along with them throughout their patient care experience.
Wow. Yeah, no, sounds very comprehensive there from a clinical perspective. I think it's going to be exciting to see what you guys learn and kind of what the impact it really is, with just that one story of improvement already. Being able to change that case study as you grow to, hundreds affected or thousands is going to be powerful for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've got a great team of scientists and doctors on the advisory board now. I'm definitely not the scientist, and I'm just amazed at what they can do. It really is incredible.
Yeah, man, that's got to be excellent. And having these, they're all studying now, like post PhD, so they're like working in universities with access to the labs and isolated cannabinoids, or is it a specific lab that you actually partner with?
So we work with a strategic manufacturer he's a PhD chemist. So we kind of have an additional branch in him, though he's not actually on our team, but he's a collaborator in the studies.
I see.
And then Dr. Jensen leads it as well.
Okay, awesome, man. And when it comes to regions, are you looking at any specific regions in the U.S. space, or are you more focused on the ailment or the type of healing you're trying to provide with more of a universal approach to your demographic?
Yeah, so we're in North Carolina. We love North Carolina. We're waiting and hoping for North Carolina to get their act together. And so
Yes.
we've got most of our focus on the East Coast, up and down the East Coast.
Okay.
And I think the market actually in the Southeast is fascinating market. How it's going. Georgia just became the first state where medical cannabis will be dispensed from pharmacies, which is a very interesting development in the industry.
Yeah, that's a pivot. That's a turn that no state has tried yet, and I think it's going to create some problems and solve some problems for sure.
Definitely, definitely. So excited for the Southeast, looking up in the Northeast, but really at the end of the day, we just want to be able to support the patients wherever they are.
I can see that from a more of a where the patients are is where ExstoBio could be.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. I think, man, the pharmacy side is very interesting, and could really upend some of the track and trace and the inventory management parts of cannabis already in introducing pharmaceutical management systems and health insurance and so much more.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting because, in Pennsylvania, I believe you have to have a pharmacist or a doctor on staff at dispensaries. And
Yeah,
now
right.
Georgia has kind of essentially removed the dispensary aspect from the game in Georgia. So it's like every state when they open up, they try and figure out a new model that work. And just like you said,
Yeah,
it creates new problems, solves some problems.
it's never it's never perfect. I don't know if it needs to be perfect as long as the next state keeps learning. And maybe by
Yep.
the last state, North Carolina or Kansas, it'll be like the best legislations.
We hope so. North Carolina's pretty much completely surrounded now with states that are opening up to medical cannabis, and actually the eastern band of the Cherokees, which are located in North Carolina, actually just opened up their own medical cannabis industry. So
Oh wow!
it's definitely putting pressure on the General Assembly here in North Carolina.
To kind of stop dragging the feet a little bit, start looking at getting these things figured out sooner rather than later.
Exactly. And I really think that North Carolina could really be a leader in the country. We have such great research universities. We've got Research Triangle Park here that is just jam packed with tech companies, with healthcare companies, and
That are kind of
research.
poised to tackle that, or really to optimize that approach too for the state.
Exactly. And I don't know what's going on, but
Everything takes
it's,
time, huh? Yeah, and
yeah,
it's that area too of the U.S. that was like some of the biggest hemp producing states, like ever for the nation originally. Back when the sails and all of our ropes were hemp, and like everything the military used was hemp. It was like Kentucky, North Carolina, Virginia, all in there, filled with hemp farms. So I
yeah.
think there's a lot of potential and a lot of good soil and like terroir there that's like very classic in some sense to cannabis that would be interesting to bring back into the mainstream.
Yeah, and cannabis is a restorative crop. It heals the earth, and we were such a large tobacco producing state for so long. I would love to see cannabis heal our earth too in North Carolina.
Yeah, try to keep that soil plentiful. Yeah.
Exactly.
I really don't know who will be last. I think my money's still on Kansas, but you're making a strong case for North Carolina. Texas is in the
I hope
bidding.
not. Yeah, I hope I'm wrong. So
Oh, it'll be something else to see that with pharmaceutical support, and maybe that will actually drive some other states' medical industries to make some steps. Because I think in general, when the rec laws hit, the medical scene kind of gets a damper. It's really a lot of the patients just start buying recreationally, and it just becomes easier. I don't know if there's necessarily, it's not that there's incentive, but there's not really a reason to be medicinal versus rec always. In Vegas, there's some tax that you do not have to pay for being medicinal, but having access to, getting cannabis through your health insurance or from a pharmacy
right.
may be another reason, or maybe actually give medicinal cannabis programs that kind of traction they need to continue. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
The recreational approach is very consume what you want when you want, preferably often and preferably from us as much as possible. Yeah, which is hard to argue with. And it's hard to say that that's therapeutic as well. Obviously, there's people finding healing in that paradigm, but it's difficult.
Definitely, yeah, and kind of like you mentioned too, that, when cannabis legislation on the recreational side came, a lot of the medicinal side kind of went down. And I think that in some instances actually did a little bit of damage to the patients that really
Oh
were
yeah.
on the medical side, and kind of it didn't allow the medical legislation to get propped up in the way it should have. It was used somewhat as a foothold in the door to bring in adult recreational use. So
Yeah,
hopefully
and it
the
seems
new
like it's
states.
not. Yeah, it's not that center at this point. At least in some of the conversations that I've seen, or kind of like the cannabis news in quotes, if you could call it that, is more
Yeah,
around the rec market, the capital prices, like that side of the institution. So it's cool to see ExstoBio trying to pull that pendulum back to into the medicinal side and that pharmaceutical approach.
yeah, we're trying to, and really to equip the doctors at the end of the day to really foster the patient physician relationship, equip the doctors with the tools to be able to prescribe or to recommend.
To take their patients through the program if needed or be
Exactly.
comfortable there more
And
than
to,
just
to
recommending. Yeah.
exactly, and to journey with the patients too. One of the largest populations growing for cannabis use and medicinal use is the older population, and they don't know how to use cannabis. They don't know how to pick cannabis, and so they're oftentimes very anxious when they're starting their medical cannabis care. And so to have a doctor that they trust to walk with them and journey with them along their care, and for the doctors to feel confident in what they're recommending to patients
Right.
is
And not
huge.
just kind of crossing the fingers a little bit or
Yeah,
assuming it'll generally help. Right. There's actually
right.
some studies behind that and some milestones to approach and a way
Exactly.
for
And,
them to
and
get feedback. Yeah.
exactly. And thankfully, cannabis has a relatively safe safety profile. So, you're not going to overdose and die. I imagine
Right.
if we took this approach with any other type of medication, it would be awful.
To just say like, well, yeah, in general, this opioids will help you with your pain. So
Yeah,
go to this store to buy some. And be like, oh my gosh, part
exactly.
of society is crumbling because of that.
Right.
No, I could see that, and I think that the psychedelics industry is actually staying very, very soundly within the pharmaceutical realm, within the clinical realm, and kind of focusing on the healing side and the benefits there to society. So I think there's something there too that we'll get a second wave of importance as kind of psychedelics come down the aisle after cannabis.
Yeah, that's I think the psychedelic industry for therapeutic use is just absolutely fascinating, and shows so much promise.
Yeah, it's I've been learning more and more about that and just kind of getting my bearings in the space of where it's at. It's interesting as heck, and I think it's almost like a rewound cannabis industry with a
Hmm.
lot less focus on rec or kind of CPG angled products. So it's like a lot of biotech and medicinal stuff on that side.
Yeah, it's very
And
interesting.
sounds like that's ExstoBio's future chapter in a few years.
Yeah, it seems like the natural progression for sure.
Yeah, right, man. Any projects or conferences around the corner for you guys this year to wrap it up?
Yes. Yeah, so we're excited. We just launched our series pre-seed fundraising. So we're raising $750,000 safe, and we're actually it's been pretty successful so far, and we're heading up to Connor Global Cannabis and Psychedelic Investment Conference up in New York in about, I think, 3 weeks from today. So we're very excited about
Excellent.
that.
Yeah, that'll be a good time for sure, and try to lock it in and kind of open up more paths. Right? Are there other things that you guys are looking to work with outside of epilepsy? I think I heard epilepsy, autism, pain management. Were there other ones on that list?
Yeah, so there's a few of them. At the end of the day, there's over 20 indications that cannabis can be therapeutic for. And so we're just, we're early in our development, so we're slowly adding epilepsy, autism, chronic pain. Been and looking into dystonia as well. There's very interesting research coming out about schizophrenia as well.
Yes, the other that I'd love to see formulations for is with Alzheimer's and the memory associations there. There's a few studies that I read and was trying to write a paper on in K-State way back when the professors were mad that cannabis wasn't legal, but the study was showing that these plaques, I forgot what they were called, beta amyloids or something like that, they bind to a similar area or to the cannabinoid receptors. I don't quite remember the science there, so folks will have to Google that. But there was something about cannabinoids preventing neurodegenerative diseases from progressing. Not necessarily healing the disease, but helping to pause the progression. And that's always been like a kind of I think a fear of mine is like Alzheimer's and kind of losing your sense of self.
Right.
I know that there's a segment of the population suffering for sure on there. So hopefully some cannabis is helping that crowd already, or would be soon with the crew that you've got on the task.
Definitely, yeah. We'll put it on our list.
There you go. Awesome, Juan Carlos. Well, thank you again for jumping on and giving us the rundown for ExstoBio. I'm looking forward to see what comes around the corner with you guys and kind of how many more lives you can impact. Dude, it's cool to hear the story and see the trajectory. In the meantime, here, before we talk again, where can our listeners find out more about you and ExstoBio?
Yeah, first of all, it was great to be with you, Rob. So I appreciate you having me on the show. It was, like I said, I listened to a few episodes on a trip I recently took, and it's great to be on here. If anyone wants to reach out, they can learn more about us at ExstoBio.com. That's EXSTO bio.com. Or you could even send me an email. I love talking to people about what we're doing at ExstoBio, and that's Juan Carlos at ExstoBio.com.
Hey, awesome, man. Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you for listening to the Apartment 113 podcast. For more information about the show, along with our services and courses, visit apt113.com. We offer cannabis software product management, cannabis education courses, and freelance writing. With over a decade of experience in the cannabis industry, Apartment 113 is here to help.